Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Dutch Gaming and another video going over mapping strategies. This time we're looking at a speed focused strategy that revolves around farming maps really quickly to get a ton of invitations, synthesis and guardian maps. It's essentially what's called boss rushing. The strategy should net you anywhere between 5.5 to 7.5 divines an hour depending how lucky you are and how quickly you can get through the maps. What I will say is the more you practice this strategy, the better you will get at it. So if you start out and you're only at 3.5 to 4 divines an hour, I'd say persevere, because certainly after the first hour or two, I kind of got an idea of how to run the maps a bit more efficiently, how to make sure I'm managing my inventory better, and I ended up at 5 to 6 divines per hour, which felt really nice. It's a strategy that's super easy to do and you can self-sustain. All you need to start the strategy is 10 maps, some alchemy orbs and some chisels. That's it. You won't have to interact with the trade at all, and you'll be using everything that you drop to continue your mapping strategy. So let's talk around the character that you need to do it, and you do need movement speed, whether that be super high movement speed and onslaught just from your natural movement, or whether you have a movement skill like whirling blades, leap slam, shield charge, something like that. If you are a caster that has low movement speed and only has a blink skill that has a cooldown, this might not work, because the key to getting profit in this strategy is being in and out of your maps within 1 minute. Ideally, being able to run any map mod helps, because when we go through the strategy, you're going to sustain it with the maps that you pick up. So being able to run un-ID maps is really big because of the quantity bonus. And even when you roll your maps, you don't want to have to be checking them for mods. I would say if you just have one mod you can't run, it's not the end of the world, but you don't want to have to be constantly re-rolling your maps to find one that suits. Lastly, I would say you need a very strict loot filter. Anything that is less than 1 chaos is not worth a click to pick up. So basically get rid of any rare. I would maybe only show T1 uniques. In terms of currency, as I say, anything that drops in stacks that's worth a chaos or more, put it on your loot filter. Anything else, ignore it. I've put a link to my loot filter down below, which works okay. I do think it's still too soft because I need to remove things like stacks of jewelers, stacks of chance orbs I think I might still have on there, and alterations. But other than that, it worked pretty well. So if you just need a baseline filter to use, I'd recommend just following the filter linked in the video description. And you want your character to be well-rounded. You need enough DPS to clear out T16 maps. You want to be taking the boss down in 5 seconds, let's say, as a baseline. And you want to be able to survive a hit. You don't want your character to be glass cannon, because any deaths basically delay your strategy and they affect your profit. You don't need to be super tanky, you just need to be able to handle not dying in T16 maps. We're not juicing them, as I say, we are just alching them, so they should be fairly straightforward. So the first thing we'll do is look at the base tree, and we'll go through the strategy and how it works. So it works around Wandering Path, which doubles all of your small nodes and disables the major passives. We're doing this for quite a few reasons. Firstly, these nodes here become 16% increased chance to drop a Maven's Invitation, which if we go into the stats here, as you can see, we have a 96% increased chance to drop a Maven's Invitation. The other important nodes are these nodes here that give 4% chance for a monster to drop a connected map. You want that at 100%. It means there will be a monster in your map that is guaranteed to drop a connected map. And then the last one is these passives here are 1% chance for maps to be duplicated. You can get that to 37%. And then lastly is just a top hat to get more increased effect and modifiers on your maps, which can make them more deadly, but it makes them more rewarding. The other nodes that you kind of want are going to be these quantity and rarity in your maps. Other than that, everything is pretty much optional. So I've gone to get more master missions because I just want to make this a pure boss rush strategy. I don't want any other mechanics involved. I just want to get in the map as quickly as I can, kill the boss, collect my loot and leave. If you wanted to go slightly slower, there's hybrid versions you can do, which will come on later in the video. But if you just want to do what I've done, I would recommend following this tree. We'll go through all the loot at the end of the video so you can see if it's something that you think is worthwhile doing. So let's look at the Atlas and the favorite system. So you have to, in order to get this strategy to work, favor 2 connected maps. Because we have that node where it's 100% chance for a monster to drop a connected map, you want to make sure that map is favorited, because then pretty much all the time that connected map drop is going to be your favorite. So the two I like to go between are Racecourse and Coves. Just for the pure reason, the bosses are easy to get to quickly. It's a boss rushing strategy, so it makes sense to pick maps that aren't very long. Racecourse is really easy. The layout is always the same, so it's very easy to get to the boss. Coves, the boss has designated spawn points. I think there's 4 different ones, so it can take a little bit longer, but you know where you're going to get the boss, and because you start in the middle of the map, it's pretty easy to navigate your way around. I don't know exactly how you want to split up your favourites. I've just done 50-50. I've not killed the fear jet. I've been super lazy this league. So I would just split whatever favourite slots you've got between Coves and Racecourse. At this stage of the league, you should certainly have all of these. And if you don't have the fear like me, don't worry, it still works absolutely fine. And the way you're going to do it is whatever map is the map you prefer running, I prefer Racecourse, is whenever you've got Racecourse maps, that's the map you're going to run. When you run out, you'll run a few Coves, you'll then drop all your connected maps as Racecourse, and you can get back to your favourite map. Just have a look at my stash tab quickly. If we go to Coves, now I have ran an extra 10 of these because this is my third try at getting this video to work. This is the oversustain from 9 invitation runs. And as you can see, I'm basically favouring Racecourse over Coves, which is why I've got tons of these Coves. And they will sell in bulk. You can get about 1 Divine for 60 maps. So it's certainly something that is worthwhile doing. Racecourse doesn't sell as well. That's another reason why I run Racecourse over Coves. So let's talk about the sustain on the strategy. As you can see, you are going to drop a ton of maps. 10 maps as a starting sample should be absolutely fine. But let's say you do only have 10. What do you do to continue the strategy effectively and quickly? And essentially, this is something you'll learn as you go along. But the way you want to do it is, if you put a map in, so let's just put, I'll just grab a map I don't care about. So we'll do this beach map. So in terms of rolling your maps, do it while your portals are spawning. So if you pick up just normal maps, chisel and out a couple quickly while your portals are spawning. Don't worry about doing them in mass because you can utilize this time on every map to roll at least 1 to 2 maps. And it just means you get no downtime. So how do I run the maps? Because I can run every map mob, which I said is pretty important, I run any rare unID'd maps I get unID'd. I'm pretty sure you still get a 30% quantity bonus from running unID'd maps. So it just saves you IDing it, scouring it, chiseling it, and alking it again. So any unID'd maps, if you can, run them unidentified. If not, I would just ID these and run them as they are. I don't think it's worth scouring, chiseling, and alking the maps because of how many we're going to run. If you get normal maps, I would chisel and out these. It's up to you whether you chisel. It is 20% quant, so I think it's 100% worth doing because that might be the difference between you dropping 100 Chaos Invitation and not dropping one. Again, if you get ones that are magic, we'll just ID it, scour it, chisel it, and then alk it. So I'm going to go back to some footage I recorded for the showcases because that was all fine. There was no corruption. It's just to show you how to run the maps and the layout and how to optimize the strategy, and then we'll go on to the loot. So let's run a Coves first because this is the map where the boss will spawn in a guaranteed position, but it's one of 4. So when you first portal into Coves, you can see you're in the central area here and you have 4 exits. And essentially you want to pick one of them, run to the end, and the boss is always on the outside of this map. And he's really visible because he stands next to a really, really big ship mast. It's really easy to see. Also, the ground is a different color. So as you can see here, we've already got a map from our setup. So he's not going to be here. So now it's a case of going to another part of the map, seeing where the boss is. So we'll go this way. And you just want to follow the coastline if you're not sure. You will run into him eventually. And the more you do the map, the more you'll kind of understand where his spawn points are. But he's normally on either the left-hand side or the right-hand side. So here, this part here. And then this mast here is where the boss is going to be. So there they are. So that's that map done already. We don't need to do any more. And we've already had 3 maps drop. So as you can see, after 1 map, we've already had 3. The sustain is ludicrous with this strategy. So then we'll put in this unID'd Racecourse and we'll run a Racecourse map. And you want to be doing around 60 maps an hour. So you may get nothing to drop from 1 map, but then the next one you go in, you might get an invitation. You could get boss maps. So the way Racecourse works is it's an oval shape. And it essentially goes round here, like this, and down like this. And the exits are sort of down here. So you always want to go down the long straight. If you go this way, you're kind of doing the map the long way around because you're essentially doubling back on yourself. So from the start, you just literally whirling blade straight down. And the path should be on the opposite side. At the door, even. So there again, we've got 2 more maps. So we'll go straight down. There's the door. We're going again. And this is exactly the same layout. You're going to have a curve. You're going to have a straight. You want to go all the way down the race straight, as we'll call it. Again, just whirling blades, kill a few packs. Doesn't really matter. We just want to kill a few packs to give ourselves a chance to drop maps. Into the room here. There'll be 1 pack of mobs to take out. Then you kill the boss. And then you're out the map. And then the way I would run this strategy is literally as soon as you get back in, you'll stick another map in, which we haven't got prepared. So we'll just alch a few maps, stick one in, and off we go. And now we've already prepared an extra 2 maps when we come out. And as I say, I'm running Racecourse where I can because I do find it's a quicker layout for me because I know exactly where the boss is going to be, and I do have very good movement speed. If I didn't quite have the agility of this character, maybe I would favour Coves. Because Racecourse is always guaranteed, but it is always a fairly long distance. So we've gone the wrong way that time because I'm not concentrating. So it's going to be up here. So you won't always get a map, but you will get maps where you get 3 or 4 maps to drop. The bosses also very regularly drop maps, boss maps, invitations, things like that.
I'm not up to that just yet.
So we're going to do one more just to actually try and get something dropped that's worth money. But remember, every time you do a map, you're ticking over towards your boss invitation. Like we've already done 3 maps, I think it is, in no time at all. And that's with me explaining kind of how the strategy works. So again, we'll just run straight down. All you got to do really is make sure that your influence procs. And that's all you have to do. Anything else that drops is just a bonus. And you won't get a particularly high level of loot to drop. I also would not worry about altars because we're not taking any of the X-Art nodes. We're not boosting up the pack size of the altars. Even if you do get something like Monsters Drop Awakened Sextants, you're unlikely to get a huge amount of them. So again, we'll run into the arena. There's another map, if we could pick it up. So again, we'll go down, take out the bosses. And there we go, we've got our first Guardian map to drop. A couple of uniques, got a brothers. Call the Brotherhood, don't know if they're worth anything, probably not. And that's kind of the way you do the strategy, nice and quick, in and out. And as I say, this loot here is from 9 invitation runs that was done in just under 4 hours. So yeah, around 1 minute per map. So with that out of the way, let's go and look at the loot breakdown and profit. So we'll run through Excellence next and all the loot that it doesn't categorize. So we'll just jump back into my stash tab. Now there was quite a few more maps in here, but as I say, I've kind of botched the last few attempts at making this video. But if we just look at coves, you can see the amount of excess cove maps that we've got is absolutely loads. I think it was Virgin on 120 when I finished the playthrough. So before going to the loot, I'll just talk about the time that the strategy took. And you want to be less than a minute per map on average to make the sort of profit I'm going to quote in this breakdown. If we quickly look in my Excel spreadsheet, you can see my total maps run were 252. And it took me, it was slightly less than 240, but I rounded it up to 4 hours. So it ended up at about 63 maps per hour, which is an average time in a map of 57 seconds. So it doesn't sound that bad, but you've also got to account for loading in times, portals spawning, and my computer's not the quickest. So if you've got something where you go into a map and you're in within half a second, you should easily be able to hit this sort of breakpoint. I often have to wait 4 to 5 seconds for my character to go into the map, so that does affect the time that I can run the maps. You are making sure you're basically just beeline for the boss, killing any packs that turn up on your way, and then you're leaving the map as long as your influence has propped. So with that out of the way, you can see here the sort of breakdown of loot that we've got from 9 full invitation runs. We've obviously got your full set of invitations. We've had lots of Shaper maps, Elder maps, Conqueror maps, had 2 Cortex, 2 Synth maps. We got lucky and got a Memory of the Sacred Grove, which you won't necessarily always get, but you will get some loot that is profitable. It might be that you might end up with an extra Cortex, or you might end up with 4 extra Conqueror maps. Income until you do, I would say, 1,000 to 2,000 maps, you're not really going to know your exact income, which is why I said it's sort of between 5 to 7, 5.5 to 7.5, something like that, because it covers both ranges of the variants. But you basically get guaranteed 2 divines just from these here. So anything you get in addition to that is going to add to your hourly rate. So as long as you are completing maps in a minute, you are definitely going to, I would say, have a minimum of 4 divines per hour, and then it will just go up from there depending on your RNG. I picked up all the contracts and blueprints. You don't have to. Again, I picked up some smaller currencies that you don't have to do if you want to map quicker. I've got some embers that we've picked up here along with some scarabs, and just a few uniques that are worth a few C. We've got 2 max rolled gold worms in terms of quantity, so they'll probably be about 20 C each. But overall, you get an absolute ton of easily sellable loot, which is why I like this strategy. All this stuff you can sell these in bulk actually for divines when you get the right amount. Again, your Guardian, your Shaper and Elder Guardian maps you can sell in bulk, your Conqueror maps you can sell in bulk. Everything should sell really, really quickly. You can even sell your Cove maps. These sell for about 60 maps for a divine. and they sell fairly quickly because it's a layout that quite a lot of people want to run. So if we go into Excellence next, we have a breakdown of 3054 Chaos, which is 13.7 Divines over 4 hours. But this is just the stuff it's categorized. So this doesn't include the majority of the Maven invitations. It doesn't include any of the Guardian, Conqueror or Elder maps. It doesn't include the Harvest memories. So there's a ton of stuff it leaves out, which is why I've had to do a bit of extra work and put it all into Excel. So I'll put our Excellence next value in there. And then we've added everything else at trade values that we've got. So we had 2 Cortex, which would be 630 Chaos. Had 14 Conqueror maps, 560. Just to pull some things out. The Bolt Cove maps I've put at 392 Chaos. If I had 120, you'd get 2 Divines for them. Some Gem Blueprints. Again, some invitations that you will get dropped because we are boosting the chance to get invitations. And then we've got the Einhorn memory there, which you are very unlikely to get. They're quite rare. And maybe you only get 1 Cortex in one run and you get 2 in the next. So it does vary. So where it's 6.5 here for this particular run, if you maybe missed out on a Cortex map, then it might be 6. If you miss out on the memory as well, it might be, 5.5. But it really shouldn't drop much below 5 because of the sort of loot you're getting and how quickly you run in the strategy. As I said, there's no cost to the strategy really, other than a few chisels and outs, because you are just running the maps that you pick up. And those maps that you can see in my stash tab here, this is the over sustain. So you definitely want to be selling maps, even though a lot of the time people sometimes can't be bothered to sell maps. You do want to be doing it because you're going to end up with no stash tab space to keep these maps. Your map tab will hold 72 of these. I'd recommend filling it. And then every time you get over, a whole inventory here for maps is 60, which is why people sell them for Divine. Just price them up either in your map stash tab or any dump tab and just do 1 Divine for 60 maps. People will buy them off you because it is a layout that people like to run. That's kind of it for the strategy. Now, I know I mentioned I was going to go through some deviations you could do to the strategy, so we'll just do that quickly now. So if you decided you weren't 100% focused on I have to get in and out of maps in a minute, there are a few things you can do to get additional income, but I'm not sure in the long run you make any more profit, and I think it makes the mapping strategy a bit more complicated. So what you do is you drop all these extra nodes here that I've basically taken because I've got no other options. So the chances for master missions, the chance for currency, the chance for scarabs. And you could do things like you could add your eater altars in. So you can add the pack size, which it will double. So you get 40% pack size from here. You could take Wrath of the Cosmos. You could come down here and like I said, you could take, so you can get your Delirium mirrors as well, which go in here. And then you get a Delirium mirror that comes up here somewhere. I always miss it. Yeah, there we go. These ones here. And then you could even go to the point of getting more Delirium orbs and filling your reward timer up. The reason I dropped Delirium is the monsters don't spawn quick enough for me. So when I'm mapping to get the 4 to 5 layers of Delirium wards that I need to get a good chance of getting Delirium orbs, I had to wait around for enemies. Otherwise, I would get to the end of the map, kill the boss, and I would only have 3 layers of reward. So I'd then have to backtrack and kill some more mobs. And although I did get quite a few Delirium orbs, overall, I think it was actually slightly less profitable. So if maybe you've got a character that isn't as lightning quick, Delirium might be worth to add in because you are just completing it as you go along. And as long as you're not waiting for mobs to spawn and you can get to 5 rewards when you've killed the boss, I think it's something worth adding in. But you need to have a play around with it and see what suits best for you. I'll put the Atlas tree link in the video description. If you've got any questions or any queries about the strategy, please let me know in the comments below. It is something I'm fairly new at though, so I'm still tinkering with it, but I think the version I'm running at the moment works really well, and it is always going to be very, very good, consistent profit. And for a no investment strategy, pretty much, I think it's probably one of the best ones you can run in terms of guaranteed profit. But it maybe isn't something you could do for, a week in a row because it is pretty repetitive because there aren't any mechanics that you're interacting with. You are just running as quick as you can to the boss, killing it and getting out. But it is quite addictive. You might find like me that you want to beat your average map time. So if you do a 2 invitation run and you are bang on 60 seconds a map, I'm then right, I want to get to 58 seconds per map on my next run. And that's kind of how I started getting slightly better profits. You also then might tweak your loot filter and say, actually, it's not profitable to pick up these alterations or these regrets. I'm going to take them off the loot filter. Same with altars. If you're checking altars, give it a go without checking. If you're doing Delirium, try it without and just compare each one to see what works best. And that's kind of how I come up with the final version of the strategy. Is I did try doing pack size on altars and I did try doing Delirium, and in the end it was just much more brain dead really just to focus on getting to the boss, killing it, and getting the loot. That's it for the video. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, and see you in the next one.